Hello there everyone and welcome back. It's time to do more rank play and I'm facing off against Voidweaver in an Asuryani Mirror Match. And the main thing I'm curious about is what tweaks were made to Voidweaver's fleet due to, the Phoenixes being reduced in points, and it's just a straightforward simple one there. Instead of torpedoes, Voidweaver is going with all carrier type of ships as opposed to what we've seen before. So there's going to be 2 Phoenixes, 2 cruisers, all of which are able to launch fighters and bombers. So this is going to be, again, a bit of an awkward match for me, just simply because of the lascans being a little more impactful here as opposed to the pulsars, which I'm kind of heavily reliant on to an extent. And since I don't really have 5 cruisers anymore, as opposed to my last Asuryani Mirror Match, I kind of have the exact same hit point pool as Voidweaver does. Although that doesn't technically mean I'm better at ramming or any worse at... Well, technically with the light cruiser, it's possible my ramming potential is a little bit weaker, depending on how that scales up. But nonetheless, I don't have that convenience like I did before, and I feel like I got my work cut out for me, simply put. And as I look over this video, I'm going to have to really think long and hard on how to actually get the upper hand on my Asuryani opponents, since Corsairs, I feel like I can do really well in that matchup just because of how much more ramming damage the Corsair ships can take, especially with the change that they made recently there. So there is some realistic possibilities I can win in a close range fight against them. And Drukhari, since they don't have the convenience of Holofield, and I talked about plenty already with my Drukhari matchups, I can just win in a straight up fight because of that alone. But in the mirror match, it's just really damn awkward for me, and I'm wondering if I should try and, well, what I'm trying to get as I feel like this is where my light cruiser might shine as I try and figure out this matchup. Since sure, last episode, the poor Wraith ship kind of performed lacklusterly. It got obliterated by a bunch of brutes, and it didn't really do a whole lot in my Adeptus Mechanicus match, I'm afraid to say. But those are things that could have easily been fixed, and a little bit of fine-tuning is just required, I feel like, in those circumstances. But here, due to the fact that even though I'm currently uncertain what Voidweaver is fielding, I was really curious if there were any changes, but I'm contemplating it's much the same. The only thing lurking in my mind as I go into this matchup is if Voidweaver had the points to maybe afford a frigate of some kind, since I know without a doubt there should at least be 2 Phoenixes in this fleet. It seems unlikely with the additional points, but I can rest easy knowing that's probably not the case after a little bit here. But like I said, they're all carrier ships, so they can reveal me and they can harass me at long range, and I don't really have the convenience to shoot down their bombers effectively with the sheer amount of fighters that they now have access to, as opposed to before with just, the 2 Phoenixes being the carrier ships? So, I am going to try and relegate myself a lot to using these gas clouds and asteroid belts, which I got quite a plethora of. I got a good handful of them, although it does keep me away from the objectives, so I don't have the slightest clue how I'm going to win this on an objective basis, and like I said, I am going to try and get this light cruiser to harass Voidweaver on the flank when I get the opportunity to. But with the tight death ball, it is very tenuous, it goes without saying, since if my control laps a little bit, it could be on the receiving end of a very deadly, Pulsar and lascan broadside, especially with convenient fighter squadrons to just reveal my Wraith ship as well. That can always be an annoyance. But right now, I am contemplating moving up to grab this 3rd point with that said, since right now, if somehow this match were to drag on, but then I might win if just on that merit. So if I were to somehow grab the 3rd point safely, especially before Voidweaver grabs the bottom point, which is kind of what I'm suspecting he might do, is try and grab the 3rd point to at least force me to take aggressive action as opposed to the passive route I'm taking. So I'm hoping to maybe grab this point then circle around up top, since there's also a gas cloud astro belt up there, but I'm watching fairly closely at the movement. And Voidweaver's not even going to try for the objectives. It looks like he might be trying to do it now with the current position, current boost, but no. He's going to leave it be, and that's possibly a bit of a mistake. Voidweaver wants to try and go for the killing blow, judging by the fact that he's straight up ignoring the objective, let alone the one that he's currently flying towards. He ignores that as well. he fixates heavily on the fleet, and as the first fighter squadrons come on out, this is where I turn around and second guess my plan of attack to grab the third objective. I'm going to boost with the Phoenix and Cruiser to conceal themselves and use a decoy fighter squadron to kind of keep them from identifying me, or at least to have vision on me in the off chance that Void Weaver has access to the extended range, since that might be something I could take advantage of too. I didn't quite take those upgrades, instead for, of course, the Spear Crystal lenses and the polarized field to negate asteroid damage, but this is where the light cruiser can start to do damage, but again, we're dealing with hull fields, and with only 2 pulsars, it's not going to be doing miracles quickly, but it is certainly getting Void Weaver's attention, isn't it? And as I inch ever closer, I try and think about, again, still contemplating grabbing this objective, but if Void Weaver boosts towards me, I'm going to be wedged into a corner. That's my main concern here. A lot of indecisiveness if I should grab the objective or not, since I feel like it will be short-lived, since Void Weaver technically could try and grab it, but since they didn't actually grab any of the other points down below, I could have probably gotten away with this and at least got something going in my favor as far as the objective. Second salvo on the Wraith ship, a little bit more chipping damage. I only did what, maybe 30, 50 points of damage so far. So safe to say it's not going to do much on its own. It's just an annoyance, but it does provide the one little trait that is kind of lacking in my fleet here, and that's getting vision for maybe the extended range like I hinted at before. If the Phoenix with its 270-degree arc has at least one upgrade to an extended the extended range to its weapons, it's entirely possible I can get some real damage in on one of these ships before the actual engagement itself. It's a lot of theory crafting and something I'm definitely going to have to think on, but this match, simply put, I am really tenuous and really terrified about fighting straight up without something going in my favor. It goes without saying, since Void Weaver also has all las cannons to their fleet too, which should give him the victory just straight up, despite my best intentions. And with that hull field down, I really would have loved to get some pulsar shots in for additional damage, but it's going to take a little bit of getting used to with the Wraith ship, it goes without saying, since it can get punished really heavily to an extent, but I feel like I could probably get more bold with it. Slowly and steadily is getting up there. Void Weaver is having enough of my crap and actually just deploying the fighters in random areas as opposed to launch them on the ships themselves, which Void Weaver doesn't have the extended range, so I'm not getting punished for this just yet. I can still conceal them, I still have range to my advantage, and third salvo on the pulsars. I don't even think it actually did any damage that time. So, safe to say, it's not doing much work for me just yet, but I like the possibility of the Phoenix supporting it to kind of start amplifying the one unique trait the Wraith ship is giving me, and that's the vision. Otherwise, not much else to say here. I'm going to be dropping down a Disruption Bomb really soon here to kind of stall and delay a little bit longer to give this Wraith ship a little more time to harass and ideally get that advantage I'm looking for. And with Brace for Impact, it is going to be tricky to do, but it allows me to have reload on at least some of my ships that I'm worried about getting revealed. The fighters do detect me briefly, which thankfully, since it's just to get random vision as opposed to lock it on to my Wraith ship, it can avoid them. It just restricts where I can go, which can really suck here with the current position of the Wraith ship being stuck in the corner. This is the 4th shot so far. We're breaching maybe, what, 130 points? And Void Weaver is having enough of this crap too. I am actually making progress, as unlikely as it may seem. Since what? Yeah, it's 150-ish points roughly. And I realistically, I would love to get a generator critical hit or a critical hit of some kind, as this Disruption Bomb is really inconvenient. I do ram myself a little bit trying to avoid it completely. In all honesty, that Phoenix probably should have just gone out of the border just a slight bit, since that ram damage easily negates the damage that my light cruiser has been doing up to this point, after all. But again, Disruption Bomb's been trying to delay, trying to stall best I can, and this is this is where I'm going to have to commit to a fight. The first 2 charges of Disruption Bomb, I can live with because this battle's going to be decided one straight up fight. It's not going to be like hit and run and tactics like before. So this one Disruption Bomb's the one that needs to count, as opposed to the other 2 I dropped before. And so far I'm going to split up my fleets into 2 sections here. Try and split the fire, especially since one... What is it? I don't think I launched the fighters on the Phoenix, which may be a bit of a problem, but torpedoes are striking true. It forced the Wraithbone shift, with the Disruption Bomb at least. And I get a really easy kill on this one cruiser. But I still got my work cut out for me. It goes without saying with these bombers here. And I was not paying attention. Did I launch the fighters? I think I launched bombers instead, which may have been a mistake. And it's turning into a big ramp fest in a hurry. Goes without saying. But I am going to win the fight on the left there. There's massive damage on those 2 ships on the right. So it's a question of who has more health after this is all said and done, in all seriousness. Since I try to get torpedoes in, sadly the Wraith ship fails, but with only 4 torpedoes, that's not a big deal. This is the one that matters most. The 8 torpedo salvos to finish off this Phoenix. And surprisingly, the right squad, the Phoenix and the cruiser, did substantial damage with the Maelstrom. And now it's just a matter of cleanup. I have more hit points, but they have the hull fill on this one cruiser, which thankfully I get the hit I need. And with this Phoenix with no charge currently, sadly my pulsars are recharging, so I can't pause it with the Spear Crystal lenses as much as I would love it right now. But that is over. That is the end of that. Somehow. It was really damn close, like the last mirror match, and I would chalk it down to my first mirror match to just coming down to not taking the bombers as seriously as I should have, because that may have cost me the match before, but in this case, I'm seriously wondering how I can fine-tune this, and I feel like this will single-handedly be my most problematic matchup, since like I said plenty of times already, my pulsars are what I rely on most, and the hull field is really damn good in negating that, but I'm going to rewind that a little bit and tell you a little bit more of my thoughts. Like, I feel like the Wraith ship performed well, sure. It may not have done nearly the damage it needed to, but hey, it's like I said before, if I seriously consider enhancing the range of the Phoenix, maybe so ridiculous enough to maybe go double range increase, although that will sacrifice the Spear Crystal lenses, which could hurt me more than it actually helps having the additional range, but since the Wraith ship does get vision for me, I could theoretically do decent damage with the lascans. Maybe not so much with the pulsars, since I have to fly directly towards Voidweaver, or at least any Asuryani fleet I go up against. So it's a thought process there. I like the potential, even though the Wraith ship did very little. It did stall and it did become a bit of an annoyance. It is of course only a single ship that's relying on pulsars, and only thing I don't like about having the Wraith ship switch over to the lascans instead is how much more time it has to commit to pursuing the other fleet, since I see as I am doing the solid running as opposed to the lock-on stance for the 270 degree arc, I have to fly directly towards them, and with how quickly they can respond with a false maneuver, I don't feel like that's going to do the damage necessary. Okay, match number 2, and this time we're going to be mixing up with some Space Marines finally. Although this is not going to be a 6 Space Marine cruiser fleet, as what I'm trying to prepare for, since they are really damn mobile, but the one thing that at least goes in my favor in that type of matchup is they don't have like the summary execution or the Cardinal of the Omni sign. I forget what the Adeptus Mechanicus upgrade is called or skill that allows them to recharge their boosters, so theoretically I can keep my distance pretty well, just like as I would with Adeptus Mechanicus in the Imperial Navy. It's just going to be interesting to see with Disruption Overcharge for the Space Marines, on how that could screw me over in the long term. Since one good hit with the lascans, the lances in general, at least I want to call them lascans, although technically the lance weaponry is just lance turret batteries, aren't they, in general? So either way, with a single hit is all they need to be able to lightning strike me. Never mind if I false maneuver a Wraithbone shift, there are really tiny windows where they can board me as well. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out, even if I can effectively run away from them, but still. This fleet is going to be the battle barge and 3 strike cruisers, 2 of which are our carrier base, which will be a bit interesting since we're not really dealing with heavy boarding torpedoes outside of the battle barge that has the convenience of its own self-sufficient fighters to screen for it. And I do take the Shrine of Aegeon since this is the one matchup I should seriously consider, or at least take the morale damage seriously, since Space Marines want to win a lot of the times through boarding damage, so if I can avoid or at least heavily prolong when I take mutinies, then at least that way I'm not taking additional troop damage in the situation I can't rally or have the convenience of an encouraging speech to negate that. Since I'm going to have to deal with all the engine critical hits or generator critical hits as well, so emergency repairs kind of takes precedent there in a lot of factors. And I accidentally fired torpedoes as a note there, but I still have 1 charge left, and how rarely I get an opportunity to fire torpedoes, let alone both salvos of torpedoes. I should be fine with this, but it can definitely be felt with those 8 torpedoes. Hell, they are conveniently flying towards the battle barge, which is the left ship there. So it might help me a lot in that regard regardless. But same strategy as always, try and grab the middle points as much as I can to at least get a bit of a buffer since I'm going to be running away from my opponent a lot, especially with the boarding potential. And with the Thunderhawks, or at least the Stormhawks coming to say hello, I have the perfect convenience of gas clouds to hide in. So that's not a big issue at all. And the light cruiser is going to try and reveal the battle barge for me, or at least try and position itself where maybe can harass it, but the battle barge has 600 shields, so it's just going to be as unlikely to do so as the frigate that just scanner pulsed, but thankfully I check, it did not reveal the light cruiser, which is a big deal, but they forget to hold fire, so I know exactly where that silhouette of the frigate is, as we're seeing it in the asteroid belt briefly. Oh yeah, and I completely forgot, the Emperor's Tarot was a bit of a nuisance there too, wasn't it? So thankfully, my opponent does not fire the boring torpedoes, but I said how I had the convenience of the gas cloud. No, that wasn't really true. I completely forgot about the Emperor's Tarot. Although I checked for torpedoes, there's none being launched at all, so these fighters are just annoyance sake and not really much else at this moment. And I do probably spend a little bit more time than I like against this frigate since the fire results could have killed it. But I disengage at a good time since the battle barge does micro warp jump. I don't notice it until just now, but I was caught a little bit off guard here since, in all seriousness, I was expecting this to jump in when I engaged the strike cruisers. If at all, since this is a perfect opportunity to do damage to this thing and possibly kill off, especially with this perfect storm that I just got. It's on the edge of the stasis bomb. It's of course in the stasis bomb, so Maelstrom's amazing here, and best of all, even though I did not notice these boring torpedoes, I get to fire my own torpedoes at them, with no real hindrance on my part. And right already, there goes a good third of its health. They did get a lightning strike in. That was not the honor of the chapter. Due to what I said before, doing the falls maneuver kept my holofield down long enough for that lightning strike. But this is part of the reason why I was caught completely off guard. Just look at how quickly this thing can die. Just to like one torpedo salvo alone is what did that. And now we're going to finish it off with another salvo to boot, to note. And there goes a good 450-ish points of their battle barge, maybe even more than that if I'm remembering correctly. And now we just have 3 strike cruisers to deal with, and one main criticism, of course, is not dodging these torpedoes. Asuryani have really good ways to dodge these torpedoes decently enough, but with the 2 fighter squadrons, it's not likely for me to kill them off, or at least shoot them down in a timely fashion. So, I'm still taking heavy boring damage, especially with the battle barge alone. Easily crippling my Phoenix quite heavily, as you're noticing there. That was all from the battle barge itself, but thankfully I am getting the torpedo hits I need. I need to kill the Space Marines quickly, since they're getting all the boring damage in right now. And I tried firing torpedoes there. That was probably the one that used up its last charge, so there's where accidentally firing those torpedoes probably cost me right there. And thankfully, the boarding damage is only on a single ship so far, at least to a limited extent. But that's changing quickly with the honor of the chapter being expended, which also means that any critical hit I do to the ships is going to stick. It's not going to easily be repaired. It's just a matter of finishing them off and doing said damage. And thankfully, that is working beautifully for me so far. We got the engine permanently gone. This thing is almost completely destroyed, but with that said, I probably should not have boarded their ships, since that does deny me the means to reactivate my cruisers as they start losing their crew. It's a bit of a problem there, since after all I do board and it did absolutely nothing with how quickly the strike cruiser died. But it's still a victory, thankfully. But with the amount of hit points I have, or crew I have left, I only have technically one cruiser that's still available, and the light cruiser could actually do at least soak a boarding assault or two before being crippled. So I'm just thankful those torpedoes hit, because this could have gotten really messy really quickly with the troop damage I was currently taking. And I am going to have to look into when I can use cold arms, because that can very easily be a death sentence if I use it poorly, with losing half my mobility for that entire duration. And I don't need to tell you how much that can suck with something that has really high mobility, especially if they're already close range to me for those said boarding attempts. But it's a victory nonetheless, and one I'm going to have to quickly learn on for when I eventually face off against the 6th cruiser fleet. Alright, third match of the day is going to be against Necrons finally, and with the change that they did to Necrons to basically be able to destroy their star pulse wave now by destroying the generators, I feel like Asuryani have a really good chance, if they didn't already have a good chance, to deal with Necrons, since now I have a way to keep them from destroying my torpedoes when I do my attack run, since even if I get a point blank range, if they are expecting it and they are prepared for it, they can shoot down those torpedoes before they actually connect, unless maybe they're flying directly towards me, which they can easily just stand still or stop moving if that's really a factor in that regard. But it's a bit of an interesting setup, since we're not going to be dealing with the tomb ships and the second, which is normally the light cruiser that's utilized with that double tomb ship fleet, since it provides a third star pulse wave. Nope, Calamity Knight, I didn't recognize them at first, but this is going to be the triple Scourge fleet. So a lot of fighters, a lot of damage potential on me, and there's going to be no way I can deal with that, at least in the if I were to get them on top of me. I kind of, once I realize what is there, I wonder what the hell it is here at this point, which is why I'm still prioritizing the deck. And to be honest, I don't think I actually switch from that, even though once I do realize they're Scourges, I probably should try and destroy their engines to keep them from jumping and avoiding my torpedoes. But there's the reveal, and right off the bat, first thing in my head, where the hell are all these gas clouds at? Since I'm just realizing now, the center of the map where the 3 objectives are is a really terrible spot for me to try and protect myself from these fighters. So I'm going to have to turn around and just make them lose their lock, since the one benefit, at least, is the fighters will have to return back completely, at least return back to dock before they can be launched again, which at least gives me a very big window to maybe push back forward, especially if they're about to reveal me or get to my half of the map at least. And hopefully, I'm panicking a little bit thinking this light cruiser might randomly get revealed, but it's going to boost out away in time. I have the boosters available, so it's not a big threat. It just might be heard if I'm not careful, if I'm not aware of that possibility at least. But yeah, fighters are evaded, and we get this bit of a weird glitch, or a weird inconsistency with their behavior, since one squadron's flying towards me still, and everything else returns back. But I'm perfectly safe for now, and this is going to force me to use the left side of the map, at least to help protect myself, since, well, in all honesty, I probably could try and get really aggressive in this type of window, since, after all, they don't have star pulse waves, but there are still an amazing amount of fighters that can shoot down my torpedoes still, which may be a something I will have to look into as I watch this match on how effective those fighters were at dealing with my torpedoes when I go in there. Since I do have the Phoenix to help them at least distract them, kind of like how they're used to screen for torpedoes for the boarding torpedoes of Space Marines and Secret Missiles rather. So I could have easily done that to this extent here. It just would have been very short-lived and it would need to be incredibly precise if I'm going to do that. And the reason I'm launching these fighters is to try and look for that frigate. With Scanner Pulse, there is a single frigate around still, which is going to be really damn awkward for me, just because they could enable these fighters to get on top of me and provide vision after all. But thankfully, I have that convenience to at least go into the gas cloud, and it would have... what is it? Calamity Knight would have to scan me now, just as I'm about to get in the gas cloud, and even then, I would have so much lead up or time before they actually get to me. The Scanner Pulse might still expire if I position myself properly. So it's not foolproof, it's just the fact that there's a single frigate in this fleet that's going to make it really difficult for Calamity Knight to get these fighters to connect. Since after all, they're the fighters that actually do damage to my hull once they get to me. Since Necrons, as well as the Orcs, don't actually have bombers, keep that in mind. This is why this is as terrifying as it is. Since each one of them is going to do what? 1 damage every 3 seconds, and when you factor in there's like 50 at least of those fighters? I forget how many exactly it is. It's a lot nonetheless. It's actually what? 7 per fighter squadron, when each one of them having 5 squadrons total. It's a lot. I'm not going to do the math in my head. But so far it's working pretty well, but the one thing I'm realizing a little bit too late is the fact that Calamity Knight is going to have 3 points and really nice dead zone with no gas clouds or asteroid belts to kind of allow me to advance. But I do have a light cruiser still. It was somewhat useful against Void Weaver, and even though I technically am stirring up a hornet's nest here with their inertialist drive, it is a good way to get some damage in without risk of the fighters at least getting on top of my Wraith ship. I am just very aware of the damn inertialist drive, which I don't think Calamity Knight even notices just yet in all honesty, so that's probably the one thing I have going for me here so far. Since it is doing notable damage now, just keep in mind, the Necron ships will still regenerate their health, so it's not as significant as it could be. Unless I get critical hits, that might be the catch. But I know the frigate's nearby, I'm trying to look for it. Especially, again, here comes the fighter squadrons as a response to that Scanner Pulse. So, simply put, I'm just going to have to go directly northward to disengage with them. Now, when does Calamity Knight get... Oh, there it is. He immediately jumps over to the Wraithbone shift, or the Wraith ship. This is what I was kind of a little bit afraid of, since that's still a notable amount of damage. If Calamity Knight jumps at me every opportunity he can, my light cruiser is going to die before it does any real significant damage, so that's something to be very mindful of. So the real trick going on forward against Necron like this is to try and take full advantage of when their inertialist drive is on cooldown like it is right now, which I'm kind of doing a horrible job at the moment. Since, what, it's 90 seconds? Well, 60, 70-ish seconds, I can't honestly remember. And they do have reload, so that reduces the cooldown even further. So I can easily get 3 free shots in with no risk of really getting jumped on. And even then, I'm not able to hit the same ship I was shooting at before, which was actually the flagship, I believe. Yeah, the flagship took a little bit of damage. Not much, especially with the repairs, but it's adding up. Especially if I were lucky enough to somehow get a critical hit on it too. That can kind of restrict what it can do for a good period of time. But this is where I realized the mistake of trying to go to the left, since now I lose the objective advantage and, sadly, don't get to jump on the Jackal as I would have liked. Even though it is still a single cruiser, or frigate after all. So it's not like Calamity Knight has an easy way to keep constant permanent vision on me for the fighters. So far I've been playing this well, but it is the honest question of if I should try to get more aggressive. Since I have the burst damage potential, and with the Calamity Knight not having Star Pulse waves, I could kill them insanely quickly with a good, swift torpedo salvo of all my ships at once. Especially if I were to hit the flagship as well to greatly minimize their damage potential. But I play this more passive route. I am trying to get more aggressive a little bit since, again, I am realizing my predicament here that I'm putting myself in after all. And with no polarized field, I'm also taking damage from this asteroid belt. So I try again there. I do a little bit more damage because I think right now we did what? About, well, not even factoring the repairs, I think I did 400, maybe 500 points of damage to the cruisers so far. And we did get an engine critical hit finally. Which, if I were to strike now, maybe I could do a lot of damage to that. And I am a little bit isolated, a little bit separated, just because I had to conceal my ships to at least ward off the fighters. Since it's like I hinted at before, I kind of would love to be able to strike while the majority of their fighters are still on cooldown, ideally. But it's not going to happen in this case. All the fighters are being launched. I don't have the convenience of an asteroid belt anymore, and we're getting jumped on. So thankfully I avoid the ram damage. I am getting boarded, and I'm going to get myself ready for potential torpedoes as soon as I can. Since I do have, well, I don't have the fighters out, which is what I talk about. I don't have the fighters out for when I do these torpedo runs. Which might be really damn important as they're getting shot down insanely fast because of said fighters. So if you want to see the potential that 3 Scourges could do, there it is right there. It's the fact that I did not have the Phoenix at least launching fighters that could have made that so much more devastating for me. But hell, you know what is devastating? The Maelstrom is easily negating and then doing even more damage to these ships. And now maybe I get a window for torpedoes since the fighters are a little bit spread out to a vague extent. If only vaguely, since I did just recently launch fighters, so the fighters are a little bit spread out. If not, just getting recalled. And there's the torpedoes finally hitting in this awkward predicament where I'm letting my hull field die down when it probably is not the best choice. But the Maelstrom alone probably did me a world of good here, especially now that the fighters are going after a Phoenix. Which I don't need to tell you how helpful it is to not have the fighters intrude. So moral of the story here, make sure I have my fighters out at the right time and isolate and contain the fighters if they all fixate on a single ship. And that way, it'll enable my torpedoes to do maximum damage where they were completely whiffed on my first attack run, which could have very easily cost me if I was not prepared for that, or at least did not take that more seriously. Now, just to end it off in style, pretty much. I think. Okay, I did launch torpedoes, it's just the wrong ship that... Yeah, because the front cruisers had no torpedoes left, which is what happened there. And all that's left is a Jackal, and this is over. Very awkward for a brief period, since those fighters did nearly save Calamity from a defeat there. Since they completely stopped my first salvo completely. And I did not take them as seriously as I could have, since I also did have the fighters up, like I said, to kind of steer them away, or at least screen for the torpedoes. So it was a lot closer than it probably needed to be. It goes without saying.